The following video relates to a video posted by the Antique Bowie Knife channel, which was taken at the December 2021 annual meeting of the Antique Bowie Knife Association in Franklin, Tennessee. The Antique Bowie Knife channel filmed several videos at that event of different collectors and different collections, and one in particular was taken of some knives in my collection. And we had a lot of feedback on that particular video and of one particular knife in that video, this one right here. And as a result of all those questions, I would like to discuss that knife a little more, and so that people can understand its history, and perhaps some of you out there can help answer some of the questions that are unanswered about this knife. So let's talk about this knife. This is a Guardless Coffin Bowie knife, mounted in silver, and made in America, probably the Deep South, somewhere in the 1830s or perhaps very early 1840s. The knife itself is about 9 3/8 long overall, with a 5 3/8 inch blade, and is one of the finest made Bowie knives I have ever been able to examine. A very complex knife with incredible fit and finish, a really difficult knife to make. Though made on the edge of the frontier in the 1830s or possibly the early 1840s, it easily meets my standard of an antique knife made by a maker who could walk into a custom knife today and spread his wares out on the table and they wouldn't look out of place. A very finely made knife, even though it was made potentially 190 years ago. This knife came out of an old Rhode Island home, and with the knife was a note that said, "Father's Bible and knives taken off rebel soldiers," along with a photograph of the owner that we're about to discuss. The Civil War soldier that acquired this knife a couple of decades after it was actually made was Sergeant Frederick Jones Peabody of Newport, Rhode Island. He was born in January 10th, 1840, and was the second son of Thomas B. and Abby Peabody. The interesting part of the history of this knife, we believe, relates to a time spent at Point Lookout, Maryland prison camp, where the Confederate prisoners of war were held. The unit arrived at Point Lookout in April of 1864 and left in July of 1864. And at Point Lookout, it would be a very convenient place to collect knives and other objects, other souvenirs from the rebel soldiers who were captured, and a convenient place from which to send souvenirs home. Jim Batson, in his book, James Black and His Coffin Bowie Knives, says that one of Peabody's duties as sergeant was to relieve the rebel prisoners of their knives. Now, the other significant Civil War event relating to this knife was the siege of Petersburg, at which Peabody was killed. On the day before Peabody was to be paroled and go home, he had a very bad experience and was wounded and died later that day. Now, from those of us who collect these, the big question really is, who made the knife? And speculation is that this is perhaps a James Black knife. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that theory, but it is a theory worth exploring. And let's talk about that a little bit. So, the most famous Bowie knife photograph that exists today, I think, is a daguerreotype owned now by Historic Arkansas Museum and was believed taken in 1842. And in this daguerreotype, there are two men pictured, and one man is holding one type of Guardless Coffin Bowie knife, and the other man is holding another type of Guardless Coffin Bowie knife. And one man is believed to be James Black, and the other is believed to be Jacob Buzzard, or Bizard. And we're not entirely sure which man is which, but it is my opinion, and the opinion of many, that one knife is of the Kerrigan knife type, and the other knife is of what we now call the heart-coffin type, of which this is an example. The Frederick J. Peabody knife is not the knife in the daguerreotype, but it is of the same type, and we'll show some close-ups of the knife here so you can see that it has all of the knives of the heart-coffin type have a silver wrap on the end, as do the Kerrigan type knives, and also a silver wrap around the ricasso. But the blades on these particular heart-coffin knives are thicker, and they have this interesting file work on the back spine, which forms a little heart design you'll be able to see in the video here. And that's why they're called heart coffins. I hope you've enjoyed me blabbering on about this historic antique Bowie knife. We're going to be doing more YouTube videos on antique, vintage, handmade, and factory knives, and on what's happening with what we think is the world's finest knife magazine, Knife Magazine. If you want to see more of these, please give us a like and a follow, and come visit our website to check out the Knife Magazine news feed at knifemagazine.com. Thanks for watching.